So the demo will be to use what are the things already what we used. We will use password encoder, of course. One difference is bcrypt bcrypt encoder. Second thing, we use user detail service. Earlier it was in memory user detail service. Now we are going to use our own user detail service class. Okay, ma'am. So this demo may not have entity and repository. Next we can connect to that. So of course there will be, we have seen role earlier. We can see authority if you want. Okay, role versus authority. And this is controller. These are all going to be there. Let's start the demo straight away. Already we have created a project called spring, this one, so let's see the pom.xml. What are all the things we have added? H2, JPA, security, Spring Web, H2 database. Then this is for console, means directly we want to query H2, that one. Okay, so let's go to resources without configuring. Okay, H2 means you are not compulsory to focus on that. I'll show you with a hello world. Okay, in my case, port number should be changed. 5000. Okay, va? Okay, I have not configured a database. MySQL driver will force you, whereas H2 will not force you. All right. Yeah, hello world. Control F11. So you do not see any problem to see the hello world. In case instead of H2 driver, you have added MySQL driver or Oracle driver, you have seen the console asking you to configure URL. Am I right? For H2, it will assume the default URL. You don't have error. It has generated the password. Of course, these things, we don't need to go and observe these things now. Correct? We are all clear about that, right? How this password is useful. So can we create our first controller? We can create um, two users, user, admin. One method for all, one method for user, one method for admin. Am I right? So what is it? I create is controller. Package name UST. Okay, good. So I'm appending to the end of the base package. I'm not adding a new package. Control 1, enter. Okay. Later we will use request mapping with some uniform endpoint, right? Currently we have three methods. Welcome all. Everybody is welcome to home. Next, about. Then one more I want. Then now coming to configuration. So I'm going to create a configuration class. You know what are the three beans I'm going to do. You are ready with that, right? So config, my config, or security, my security configuration class. Okay, any name, that's the point. What are the first bean? What? So a method that returns password encoder is a password encoder bean, no matter what is the method name. Am I right? It is a bean. And this time I'm not going to return no password. I'm going to return a new bcrypt password encoder. Bcrypt password encoder. This time I'm using new. See the difference actually. No password encoder doesn't have a public constructor. So you cannot create an object of that class, but used .get instance. Whereas for bcrypt, new. See the difference in the syntax. Okay, when you type, you will know. So any doubts? We have created a bean. What is the second bean we have to create? I will not create this authentication provider now because it depends on user detail service. So first create the dependent beans, then create the bean. Ah, user detail service. This time I'm going to create my own class. Correct? So what I will do? I will go there now. I create a class. What is the name of the class? User detail service is an interface. I will create my user detail service. My user details service. The word ends with service. Now you are all very familiar with the service class, right? So I'm going to create a class which belongs to which package? Service. Normally you will create entity, repository, service. No, that service which has created methods. Okay, ma? One method to log in, one method to sign up, one method to update, delete. That class. So I'm naming it as my user detail service. Until I find a better name, this is the name. What I will do? Service annotation. Uh, Now, this is not a normal class. This is a class that implements user details service. A class that implements an interface is forced to override the method. This is the method in this. So why it is load user by username, sir? User detail service interface has one. Again, this is a functional interface. Are you happy? Then there itself I could have used lambda. No, yes, of course you can use. Suppose Arul is creating a class which has a method which is suitable, means Arul will use method reference also. Correct? So now listen, I'm directly coming to the point. In Saturday's demo, we used in-memory user detail service with 3 users. The same 3 users I'm creating here now. Okay, ma? Later, instead of that, I will auto-wire a repository and find this username is found in the database or not. What is this username? In browser's users login page. In login page, I enter username password. No, that user will come here. You return one user details object. User details is an interface. User implements user details. So either you return user details or user. That user object contains password. It will check. Spring Security will check this object matching with the user entered credentials or not. So password matching or not, I will not check. I'll just return a user object which contains the password. Security layer will check. What I need to do, this username can be used to find a user from database. Currently, what is database? My array list is the database. Okay, ma. Shall we create 3 users now? User dot with username. This is what we used. This time 3 different names, please. 33 பேர் இருக்கீங்க, 3 பேர் சொல்ல முடியாதா? Jobin dot password, so that nobody can guess this password. Okay, ma'am. Role. What are the roles you want to give Jobin? Tell me. Admin enough or admin and user? Admin enough, huh? Okay. So this is user 1, correct? We got user details. User with username returns use. Oh, sorry. It will return builder. From builder, we need to build the user details. Understand? So we are going to repeat the same for 2 other users. So password should be encrypted, no? Before that, this underline I don't like. Do not keep any errors in your head. Now free. Okay. So Jobin at 123 is the user entering data. We are going to encrypt and store. We need password encoder. Where is password encoder? Configuration. So what we can do, we can auto it here. Am I right? Password encoder. Encoder. Spelling anything I can use now. Encoder. Now listen. If I put auto wired here, it will look all the configuration classes. Is there any bean of type password encoder that will be injected correctly? Like audio, Sony, JBL. Correct? Password encoder. Put the mouse on this. What is this? Interface. Can you see that? Password encoder is an interface. Its implementation is there in the my configuration, my security configuration class that will be injected. Now you can use password encoder here. Sometimes it may be available in the entire project. This may create one circular reference. I'll come to that later. Now I need to encode this string. Encoder dot encode of string. What else can be the method, correct? You want to encode. Are you able to understand this now? I can say dot password of Jobin at 123. That is plain text. Now encode of Jobin at 123 means the encoded version of Jobin at 123 is stored there. Now user will enter Jobin at 123. It will be encoded. Why encoded? Because password encoder bean uses not know a password. It uses Bcrypt password. So whatever password you type in the browser's address bar, browser's text box password, it will be Bcrypted and compared with this what is stored in this object. Correct? Are you able to understand now? Next second username Nitina. Nitin is user admin you both user. One more username Sarat or Gogul. Sarat. I know whether you know or not. I checked. Sarat is both. Okay, ma. Sir. Suddenly you put one comma. How? That means roles accept paramary. Paramary dot dot dot. Understand? You can give one string or two string or zero string or any number of string. Now listen, all of you. There are three users here. Correct? I need to find the object which matches with the username and return that object only here. Okay. So what we can do is, my suggestion, we can have a map. That is easy. If map is not there, these three u1, u2, u3 should be in an array list. You should loop the array, check every object. It will perform. It will be, suppose 1 lakh user means 1 lakh loop iterations. Map means directly you can use get of key, you get the value. Am I right, Aaron? So first what I do, I will put these things in one map. Map, all of you know. Key is a string username, because in the method username only is coming. Username is the key. Corresponding object you can get. Okay, ma. So key is a string, value is a user details. Correct? User details. I can name it as what? User map. Which map you want? Hash map, tree map, any map you can tell, because string already implements comparable. String already has hash code and equals method. Predefined type. I don't need to put any effort. You can use anything. Okay, tree map. And in constructor, I'm going to create these three users. Initially, it should be there. No, initially these three users should be there. No, constructor of this class name what? User detail service. In that, I'm going to put this code. Okay. Now there are three users. User map dot. How will I add these three things to that user map? if you say add, you have to study again. Okay, put of key value pair. Key is username. Where is username? U1 dot get username. U1 is the object. I can type Jobin comma U1, Nitin comma U2. That also fine. But why? Isn't it? So three things I'm going to have: U2, U3, U3. Now all of you understand the my service, my user detail service class has a map which has key value pair. The key is the username. If you give the username in get method, it will return the value which is user details object. Understood? How easier it is? User map dot get of username. What I will get? Of course, user details. Return this user. Now the thing is, it can be possible the username is invalid. Somebody enters Raja. There is no such user. So what we will return null? We will return null. Instead of that, Spring Security has already defined one exception class which we can use. It is already there for this purpose. So if user is null, I can throw an object of username not found exception. I can say login failed. Why should you give clue? Username is correct, password is wrong and all, or username is wrong, right? Login failed is the best answer. No user with the username, login failed. Are you able to understand now? There is a class specifically for this purpose. I am making use of that. Understand my point? In Spring Security framework. Now, any doubts? This looks very heavy. Means what we are trying to do, if you understand, you will naturally arrive at this solution. Correct or not? பார்த்தீங்களா நீங்கள் கவனிக்கிறீங்களான்னு செக் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். Nitin at good encoder dot encode of. For some people would have think, oh, it seems first user only we have to encode. Second, third, we should not memorize. That, not like that. Encoder dot encode of. So encoder is just the spelling we have used. Okay. Cut. Put that here. So look at the whole picture. There's a constructor. I actually never have used this approach because I always use database. Next demo, we will use database. Temporarily, the service has a map. Constructor is used to initialize the map with 3 users. Okay, wow. And then every time user logs in, the username is used to find the corresponding entry in the map. If it is found, that user I am returning. That's all. Now coming back to configuration, which is pending because user detail service is now only available. I'm going to auto wire this use my okay, listen all of you, what I am typing here, you see short form. You have any doubt here when you see these 2 lines? Are you understand? We need 3 beans: password encoder, user detail service, authentication provider bean. When I type 13th and 14th line, what do you understand? User detail service is a interface. When I say auto wired, it will search for all the beans and then find out which is eligible to be injected into UDS. Can you see this class? The moment you put a service annotation, it is a component annotation. So this is a bean, configured bean. Now it will find my user detail service is an eligible candidate that can be injected into this UDS. Understand my point? Auto wired by type. not by name. If you type my user detail service m small letter also, it is auto-override by name. This is auto-override by type. There is no confusion. Only one user detail service is there. Okay, all of you understand now? Now listen. I don't need to define bean annotation with method for user detail service in this demo, because there are two ways you can configure a bean. I told you. What are those two annotations? Component annotation, bean annotation. I have used what annotation here? Component annotation. Can you see that here? Now user detail service is a bean now. The moment you put at the rate of service, that itself is it's configured as a bean only, no? Why you go to configuration class? It is possible you create a method that returns an object of this my user detail service and put one bean annotation. You are doing redundantly. This itself is a bean. So there are three bean methods in my previous demo. One I have erased now, because here I have done that. Understood? Huh? Now what is the third bean? Authentication provider. Authentication manager. No, I will introduce later. Okay. You can name it as anything. AP. Last time I mentioned the same spelling with a small letter. No. For a change, I am doing that to prove that any name is fine. Now, authentication provider is also an interface. What is the implementing class? DAO authentication provider. To the constructor, it is expecting. There it is UDS. Are you able to understand now? It also depends on password encoder. You call that method, you will get the object of that password encoder. See, I'm calling the method inside the argument instead of an argument. You can do it in a previous line. Get a variable, give the variable here. Both are same. Correct? Huh? Now finally return this DAP. We have completed the minimum requirements. We are going to run and check. Role based, method based authentication I have not enabled now. Let's see first. I'm able to log in, right? So let's restart the project. Unsatisfied dependency UDS. In UDS, constructor throw in exception. So when you say private user detail service UDS semicolon and auto-wire it, that is not the problem. But there is a problem in that user detail service class. Constructor threw an exception. Can you see that? And what exception it thrown? Uh-huh. Very good, very good. That is a clue. Unsatisfied dependency. Can you see now? In user detail service, there is a auto-wired. This is okay. But encoder, correct? Huh? We have put bean annotation in our password encoder. Bean annotation is there. Then we can auto-wire it. Hmm. இது வந்து கான்ஃபிகரேஷன் கிளாஸ், யூசர் டீடைல் சர்வீஸ், பாஸ்வேர்ட் என்கோடர். கரெக்டு தானே? கான்ஃபிகரேஷனில் இதை மேலே எத்தணுமா? எப்படி இந்த ஐடியா உங்களுக்கு வந்தது? ஜாவாவில் அப்படி கிடையாதே. இன் ஜாவா தேர் இஸ் நோ சச் டாப் டவுன் அப்ரோச். ஜாவா ஸ்கிரிப்டில் இருக்கு. C language, okay, you define a function below and call it, not possible. Cannot invoke because this dot encoder is null. So problem is in the password encoder, this line. Password encoder, return your Bcrypt password encoder.
Service class ல import பண்ணது auto wait
Hmm.
அந்த private password encoder அது import தப்பா
பாஸ்வேர்டு என்கோடர் செக்யூரிட்டி கரெக்டு தான். ரெண்டு ரெண்டு இருந்தால் தானே கன்ஃபியூஷன், ஒன்று தானே இருக்கு. Bcrypt பாஸ்வேர்டு என்கோடர் கரெக்டு தான். Control Shift O. Usually one circular reference error will come. This is version 6, no different. Constructor through exception. கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்டர்ல தான் நம்ம என்கோடர் யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கோம் இல்லையா. Encoder dot encode of. Let's check this code.
ஆக்சுவலா ஆட்டோ வெயிட் பண்றது நம்ம கான்ஃபிகரேஷன் கிளாஸ்ல இருக்கிற மெத்தட் வந்து ஆட்டோ வெயிட் பண்ணுவோம். இது வந்து புதுசா இம்போர்ட் பண்ற மாதிரி
கான்ஃபிகரேஷன் கிளாஸ்ல இருக்கிற
பாஸ்வேர்ட் என்கோடர் தான் நம்ம வந்து இந்த சர்வீஸ் கிளாஸ்ல யூசர் சர்வீஸ்ல வந்து வேற பேக்கெட் இம்போர்ட்.
ஓகே. ஸோ இங்கே பாஸ்வேர்டு என்கோடர் வந்து கிரிப்டோ பாஸ்வேர்டா, செக்யூரிட்டி கிரிப்டோ பாஸ்வேர்டா, இங்கே வந்து செக்யூரிட்டி கிரிப்டோ பாஸ்வேர்டா, சேம் தானே. மெத்தடை எப்படி நம்ம இம்போர்ட் பண்ண முடியும்? பாஸ்வேர்டு என்கோடர் இஸ் ப்ரீடிஃபைன்டு. ஆடியோவை எடுத்துங்களேன், இது வந்து ஆடியோ, அங்கே இருக்கிறது சோனி வந்து இங்கே இன்ஜெக்ட் ஆகுது. அங்கே பீன் அனடேஷன் யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். So first we have to check com.usd demo, com.usd-demo.config, com.usd-demo.service. அதுதான் கரெக்டாக இருக்கான்னு பாருங்க. ஸோ இங்கே you are very close. You are using encoder inside the constructor, but auto wired happens after construction. Timing. So encoder is null in the constructor. See, the point is auto wiring is late, constructor is early. In constructor I am using encoder. Understand my point? So that is the problem. The encoder is null. The encoder is null because constructor is early, auto wiring is late. That is the reason. Okay, va? So use constructor injection. Password encoder should be sent as an argument. Can you see that? So that is why auto wired is discouraged to use. Instead of using auto wired annotation, use constructor based injection. This is always recommended. So password encoder is now not auto wired. Okay, va? And to the constructor I am going to use password encoder. Now who will send this argument to the constructor? There is a class which has a constructor, argument is encoder. Who will inject this constructor based injection? The moment you put component annotation, you are not creating an object of this class. Spring IOC container is going to create object of this class and inject whatever is the argument. How will it inject? It will search for the configuration and find a password encoder and inject it. Understand now? So very minute thing. Auto wiring is delayed. Constructor is early. Understood? Now we are going to restart. Circular, I told you, no? So normally this circular will give you, error itself will give you the solution. You just copy this, Control C, go to properties, paste it here, change it into equal to. In free time you can research on this. Now I am going to run this and conclude. Okay, running now. Let's go to localhost, port number. Okay, so username, any one username, Sarath. Welcome all. Okay, now we have not done role based. It will allow anything about contact, everything will work. Correct? Shall we introduce that? How will you say which method is allowed for which role? annotations pre-authorize. Uh, Without that it won't work, then we will come and add that, right? So pre-authorize, it accepts a string. The string has role, has any role, has authority, has any authority. These are the combination of options available. Has role means you say one role. Has any role means what? Multiple roles I can specify. One is user, another one is admin. You want to give more than one role, this method can be accessed by this role also, another role also. Two roles are allowed means you cannot say any has role, you should say has any role. Arul is trying to allow only about method. What we will do? Pre-authorize has role. You understand the difference between has role and has any role, Arul? Single quotes. Yeah. See, within string itself, it is checking whether it is right or wrong. See. Hmm. Now Arul wants to allow only user. What he will do? Has role of user. So more than one role you want to specify, you have to use has any role. Has role versus has any role. Understood, Arul? What you understood? Ah. Now without that annotation, it won't have this, no? That you all know, correct? So no need to wait for that observation. Added that annotation. Let's verify now. Browser. Ah. Now who is allowed to access contact? Contact is allowed to be accessed by user. Who is admin? Okay, we will log in as Jobin and see not allowed. Jobin not allowed, but Jobin is allowed to access about and home. Understood? Now log out. Who is user? Nitin. So user is allowed to access home and user is allowed to access no, about not allowed. Contact is allowed. Correct? Now you have to check the one more user who has both the roles. Who is that? Sarat. Now Sarat is allowed to home, about and also contact. All are allowed. Understand? So we have achieved this.